Θα θέλαμε να ευχαριστήσουμε τον εκτελεστικό διευθυντή της Εθνικής Τράπεζας της Ελλάδας. Θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω γιατί βρίσκεστε μαζί μας για 5ο χρόνο συνεχόμενα και σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ για τη συμμετοχή σας εδώ. Προχωράμε τώρα. Ξεκινάμε μάλλον τις συνεδρίες μας. Το πρώτο πάνελ που έχει τίτλο «Επιτάχυνση της διασυνδεσιμότητας στην Νοτιοανατολική Ευρώπη» με συμμετέχοντες τον κύριο Καρίδα και την κυρία Χαρπαντίδου και συντονιστή τον κύριο Σπύρο Παπαευθυμίου. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Ωραία, ευχαριστούμε.
Thank you very much. So we come to the first panel for the day. I'm taking the lead from the previous speaker who really touched upon the heart of the issue, and he summarized the present conditions very well from the perspective of the banking sector, but he also talked about how we have fallen victims to our success in the entire continent because we have a common objective. And the first thing that he pointed out in the measures that the National Bank proposes is interconnectivity. And so we come to this panel that I have the honor of moderating about how we can accelerate interconnectivity in the region. We have with us Ms. Eleni Charpandidou, who is a member of the Board of Directors of ENTSO-E and European Regional Affairs, and Mr. John Carida, CEO of Renewables and Battery Storage Business Unit in the Copelouzos Group. This is a panel that combines both the managing field of this issue and the vertical groups that can produce energy but also invest on interconnectivities that are very important. So I would like to start with giving you the floor to make a brief presentation and focus on how we can, in Southeastern Europe, transform interconnectivity projects, both in electricity and natural gas, from simple infrastructure to lever of growth and development so that we move forward with energy transition. I would like to start with Ms. Harpandidou. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor and it's a pleasure to be here to represent the Association of ENTSO-E, which, for those of you who don't know, is an association of 40 managers of energy transfer in Europe, EU and non-EU members. And I would like to clarify that because since we are in a panel where we focus on Southeastern Europe, a characteristic of the region is that we have both EU and non-EU countries. So in our association, we focus both on managers in EU member states and third countries. Now, on the specific topic for the development of networks and connections, I think we are a bit delayed, in my view, about how we should proceed with accelerating interconnections in Europe. This is part of our flexibility, and it gives solutions to the issues of systems, energy systems and grids. And as you said, Mr. Milonas was very correct on what he said. The European Union has stated quite recently that we have to focus on interconnectivity with its announcement in 2023, and now we are expecting the grid package at the end of the year. Now, about what we should do in order to manage to reach our objectives, let me just mention a few things based on the TYMTP of 2024, the 10-year plan for the grid expansion, we need 108 gigawatt of new cross-border interconnectivity until 2040. Only 80 gigawatt are under development, and there is a gap there. There is a deficit, which also has an impact on the cost, and this creates also an uncertainty in the energy supply security, and we also have a deceleration of decarbonization in the energy sector. A piece of good news that I would like to share with you here is that every euro we invest on interconnectivity saves on 2 euros at the level of energy systems. So it's not just smart infrastructures, but also smart economy. The cost of inertia when we don't invest on these infrastructures, what we see, we have uncertain and unstable prices, higher dependency on external factors, and we've witnessed major changes in Europe in the energy sector in recent years, we all know. I don't know if I have the time to share something more. What we have identified is that we certainly need a better and collective planning, what we call coordination among the different member states. A point that we have underlined is that the national schemes for the energy and the climate should be more specific. This will also focus on the 10-year planning. They are not harmonized between the two sectors of electricity and natural gas, so there is a major gap here. Such a planning will definitely help with investment. It can give visibility on how we can invest and what sort of investment we can proceed with. So we need cooperation between different sectors of energy, between different states, between managers of energy, distributors, and of course the governments of the member states. Another point that we have identified, and we all know, is permits, which is a major drawback. I would just like to mention that 50% of interconnection projects are still waiting for permits. 13% has delayed, and with every month that passes, we have more problems. There are certain mechanisms that are called extraordinary procedures in the field of energy, because the EU tries to simplify its rules and not to create more complexity in the field. And of course, a point that we have been trying to achieve is that we have very high demand in infrastructure projects, and we also have to deal with the supply chain. It's not just the planning, but what we should do with the supply chain, which is a major concern for the sector. If we consider that the delivery time for cables for basic equipment need 4 to 5 years for delivery. And I'm not going to touch upon the issue of prices, which have soared. There are specific proposals, even for the specific field that I just mentioned, the issue that I just mentioned. We have to invest in the industry. We have estimated investment of 16 billion euros. suppliers have to have visibility, long-term visibility, so that they do prepare that in advance. And we also need specialized personnel, because this cannot be implemented without skilled staff. We have major deficits here, and we made specific proposals for a net zero industry academy, which will give back to the market the staff that we need. Our networks have to be smart, of course. There are tools, digital twins, as we call them. We must monitor on in real time, not just with a delay of minutes, and we need prognostic maintenance of the system, of the networks, in order to prepare for any incident. I wouldn't like to expand on what I said, but just let me mention that there are technologies available about how, for example, systems talk with each other, and there is a proposal for systems and providers to give us systems that can communicate, that can talk, in quotes, among them, which will reduce the complexity, accelerate projects, especially in interconnectivity. Thank you very much. You have mentioned a lot of things, and we're going to see them later in more detail. Good morning. This forum is very important. It focuses on energy, because with these geopolitical developments, each country has to safeguard its economy. And in order to do that, we have to protect energy. That's how we should start. And try to minimize the impact of external factors on energy. And of course, our country has the characteristic and the position that we are. We are at a very sensitive region with constant shocks, and we have to see how we can achieve this goal. You also mentioned that interconnectivity has taken much higher value than we thought. In 2023, only Europe acknowledged the major importance of interconnectivity, not just among member states, but also with third countries, so that we can guard our energy supply, energy diversification, integration of markets, which will lead to lower prices. And on the other hand, despite the risk and the challenges that we're facing as a country, we have the good fortune, because of our position at the edge of Europe and because of our adjacency with third countries, to work so that we benefit not just our economy, but our geopolitical role in the region. As a group, although we invest a lot on green energy, we've started developing as of 2008, when we understood and acknowledged the vision of an regional and international interconnectivity. We have developed a project which is very well known. I'm not going to talk about it in detail, but just mention it. Yeah, give us some details about, but apart from the technical issues, about the strategic and geopolitical advantages of this project for the region, for the country and the region at large. You're absolutely correct. This project, which connects Europe, Egypt, how do I find the pointer? So it connects Europe and Africa, of course, Northern Africa, with Greece and Europe at large. And this is a great opportunity. We focus on transferring green energy, 3,000 megawatt of green energy that will be produced in this neighboring country in Egypt. A parenthesis here. Why Egypt? Because Egypt has a plethora of available land, and it also has very high capacity for RES, both solar and wind energy, and it also has a constant and stable extrovert policy of the government, which aims at making Egypt a hub of energy. And the closest country, fortunately, for Europe is Greece. So evidently, if we transfer 3,000 megawatt of Greek energy, we have, of course, very evident environmental benefits. This will reduce CO2 pollutants by 10 million euros, and it will also reduce our energy supply by 4.5 billion BCM annually. You can imagine that this project is going to have a major contribution to Europe's effort to accelerate green transition, reduce pollution. So both environmental and economic benefits are evident. Technically, this project offers evident benefits for the stability of the network. When we're talking about an investment of 4.4 billion euros, it's a huge opportunity for business development and growth, new jobs, development of local expertise and know-how, and a huge contribution to our GDP. So the financial benefits are also evident, but the most important thing is the geopolitical benefit, because this project will help Greece play a very significant geopolitical role in Southeast Europe and Eastern Mediterranean, which is a very sensitive region, and strengthen our energy safety and security in the efforts of our country to achieve the goals that it has, the geopolitical goals that it has in the region. This project has been constantly supported by the Egyptian government and also by the European Union institutions. Let me tell you that this support has been transformed into specific action. We have started the drafting of the final studies. Part of the cost has been covered by the EBRD, with which we have signed an agreement. We have started accelerating our work so that we are in a position to complete our technical studies and proceed with the supply of the equipment and material. Without international interconnections, we cannot move forward. Greece has its capacity, its solar capacity. We have a high production of RES, but through these international interconnections, we believe that this is going to be the founding rock of the interconnection between the south and the north, which is the official policy of Greece and the whole of the EU, together with what? was also mentioned by my fellow speaker here, for the managers of energy grids. Let me share a few more characteristics of GREGI, which are going to create a domino of positive developments in Greece. One is that this green energy is going to be constant flow, which will have a base load profile, in other words, which we all understand that is going to be a very important tool for businesses, which will reduce their energy cost, the profile and cost. And second, because of the characteristics that I mentioned of the production of Greek energy in Egypt, the energy through GREGI is going to be very competitive. So green energy of constant flow at very competitive prices is a highly important tools, not just for the strengthening of the Greek industry, which will allow it to have an extrovert orientation, which since it will reduce its energy cost. And of course, the distribution of this energy will create a domino of investment in Greece. The previous speakers talk about data centers, AI. All this needs a lot of energy, especially the use of AI, when this energy is competitive, together with the development of the networks of the grids through the PTO. It's very important that we have these facilities. Also the production of green hydrogen, green methanol, and of course cheap and competitive green energy will strengthen all parts of our economy, the agricultural sector, strengthening the Greek GDP and protecting the Greek economy from international turbulence and shocks. And I believe that such projects show us the way by accelerating all these interconnections in order to have in the EU and enjoy the benefits that I explained by this project. So if we compared this to some myths, it's like the myth of the turtle and the
ανεξάρτητους μεταξύ τους, οι οποίοι πρέπει να συνεργαστούν και οφείλουν να συνεργαστούν προκειμένου ένα τέτοιο έργο να γίνει πραγματικότητα και να προσδώσει πάρα πολλά ωφέλη, όχι μόνο στους ανθρώπους, στους ομίλους που θα εμπλακούν, αλλά και σε όλη τη χώρα, σε πάρα πολλούς τομείς. Είναι εξαιρετικά σημαντικό. Αδμιαία υλοποίηση και μάλιστα είναι σε εμπορική.
But also the country which will allow us to have also other projects within the country, like the connection between Attica and the island of Crete, which is a more regional, a more local project, but it has its high benefits. Ms. Garpandidou, Europe invests on an interconnected, as you mentioned, integrated hyper network, EU network. What are the obstacles that we have to overcome in the region and in Greece in order to achieve this interconnection? Let's say we have an electron in Crete, produced in Crete, and it can go up to Denmark. We cannot import and export energy during the day or during the night and have an integrated market, because behind networks and grids we have an integrated market which we don't have in Europe yet.
We do have a European energy market, but nevertheless there are still issues that need to be resolved. With regard to what is particularly the status of the various projects is and planning, I believe that one of the critical issues at hand has to do with coordination, as I mentioned. What I mean to say is that there is no proper coordination between the various countries. We need to look at the map of Europe as a whole, I believe, to plan the needs that exist and the corridors that should be created from where to where. For example, we have the project Gregi that was just mentioned, and another project that is being planned by IPTO, starting from Greece and going through the Adriatic to the Adriatic Sea to Central Europe. Many discussions are being made regarding this project, and they're still ongoing. Also about how such a project could be implemented. There are also corridors in Southeast Europe, vertical and horizontal, which are being looked at. But a key issue right now, apart from the construction issue, also has to do with the element of harmonization of the laws in our region. As I mentioned earlier, Southeast Europe includes countries that are member states of the European Union, which means that they adhere to the regulations of the EU. However, it also includes countries which are not member states of the EU, for example, countries of the Middle East. In our region, in the Balkans, action has already been taken, and we are trying to reach a point for many years, I must admit, because the procedures move quite slowly. But nevertheless, we are trying to reach a certain point, because right now there is a gap in our region with regard to its market in the Western Balkans, precisely, which have not yet entered the so-called coupling of the market. And that leads to problems also with regard to the prices we see between Southeast Europe in the market and Central Europe. We are now taking action to try to accelerate these processes in order to be able to arrive at the desired result, that is a unified energy market that will offer these reduced prices that we are all aiming for. Thank you, Mr. Karidas. Given the geopolitical position of Greece, and also keeping in mind that your group also has vertical activities, that is, it is involved in all parts of the energy sector, what do you believe are the strategic investments required, particularly in Greece, so that Greece can become a green energy hub? I believe, more or less, this has to do with all that's already been mentioned today, that is, strengthening digitalization and upgrading of the grid that IPTO is also already proceeding with. Also, as soon as possible, we need to have autonomous units for energy storage so that the grid becomes more stable and so that the network can also support the further integration and penetration of RES. Open up a parenthesis now. I believe that also the energy mix of Greece needs to be amended. 60% on photovoltaic energy nowadays is not suitable for reasons of stability, and also the production of clean energy should be available throughout the day, not only in the morning hours. And also international interconnections are important. Some of these things go hand in hand. That is, the existence of Gregi and its implementation, together with the distribution of green energy at competitive prices in relation to Europe, can be a further incentive for new investments to take place in Greece, which will then, in turn, put pressure on the manager to strengthen the system locally and all over the country in order to support these activities. However, all this works like a domino, because one action can be an incentive for the next. But as I mentioned, upgrading of the network, international interconnections, and storage units are the most important things. The biggest challenge for Greggy, well, as every project, there are technical issues that need to be resolved. Some have already been answered, some will be. Commercial issues also, but they're being dealt with. But time is important. As a country, we need to take advantage of the current momentum in order to do all this as soon as possible so that the Greek market changes radically. My last question now to you both. So is the problem time or money at the end of the day? Because Mr. Milonas spoke about money, but it seems that that's not the key problem or the technical issues. What's your opinion? In order to reach the optimum situation, I don't know when, 5, 10, and 15 years, is it a question of time at the end of the day? Is it management choices that play a role? Well, I think it's both. We see that the more delays there are, the higher the cost. We see that in the market and also in the investments that need to be made, that things change, reversed, and the costs increase. So the more time we take, yes, we have higher costs to deal with. Every euro that we invest in these systems, as I mentioned, secures 2 euros from our future, which means that both go hand in hand, in my opinion. Whatever we invest today, we shall be able to gain in the future with regard to cost. And Mr. Caridas? Well, I think I'll be a bit more optimistic. According to what the group believes, market needs, when the market needs a project and the project is to be implemented, I believe the money will be found to do that. The financing will be found. That is not the key problem. The problem is to be able to quickly implement all that needs to be done so that we can take advantage of the impact as consumers, as a country, as the EU, so that we can gain with regard to all the important issues that I mentioned. I believe we can do this. There is the know-how in Greece. There is a vision. We see that in the implementation of other major projects. So I believe the key challenge is time. Thank you very much indeed for our chat. And we hand over to the next moderator, Mr. Andriosopoulos, for the next session. Thank you.